Recently, while attending the Warhammer shop in Derry, I was gifted a small book of short stories published by the Black Library. It was all part of Warhammer's annual promotion of their series of novels. The 5 stories in the book were a combination of humour, action, horror, and mystery. I enjoyed all the stories, even though I was previously unfamiliar with the authors. I enjoyed the comic elements of the orc story Irreplaceable, written by Denny Floyers. I've only read one other story about orcs in the Warhammer setting. Authors in Warhammer seem to take perverse pleasure in creating unique vocabularies for orcs. It is enjoyable in trying to decipher what these characters are actually trying to say. I also really enjoyed the horror story The Nameless by Hal Wilson. It mixed in mystery elements with having the characters being amnesiacs trying to regain their memories. Some of the horror theme came from the idea of humans trying to colonize places they shouldn't and being doomed to fail. The story Opportunity Cost by John D. Beer has been the first story that I've read from the perspective of the Adeptus Mechanicus faction in Warhammer. It had more of a science fiction style to it, although it was filled with action and mystery. I couldn't help feel disgust by the body horror elements of the story, even if they were not explicitly said. The story Doomwheel by Ian Green was another story filled with action. It was also the first story that I've read from the perspective of the Skaven. Like the orc story, it featured a lot of humour. Elements of the story reminded me of the novel Bad Loon Rising by Andy Clark that I read recently. The final story, Joy of the Martyr by Ness Brown, was another horror story written with a lot of action. Although there was much of the body horror that we would expect from such a story, the main theme of the story circled around existential horror faced by a fanatic when presented with something that causes a crisis of faith. I enjoyed all the stories and looked forward to seeking out other works by these writers.